Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Welcome to the 41st episode of the podcast.
That's right. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. Byron, how's it going over there?
Mike, I can't complain, man. Living the dad life, enjoying it every single day, working, grinding out these hours, my friend. How's life over there?
Life is good, man. I've been working hard here in town. I just got a new side gig with Fansided. I'm going to be writing and covering Detroit sports for them. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Very excited about that. And yeah, man, just trying to beat this heat. It's hot out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. That heat is nothing to play with these days, but I'm loving it. I was out in the couple of pools this past weekend enjoying the holiday.
Wearing your water wings?
Oh, yeah. Splash, splash, baby. We're taking a bath.
Oh, yeah. No, man, I've been good. It is hot at work. I'll tell you that. I've been coming home, taking naps, and waking up with cramps and having to chug bottles of water.
Oh.
Hopefully this doesn't last too long. You know me, I'm a bigger fella, so I like the cooler spring and fall weather.
Oh, yeah. You got to check up on those Pedialytes, man. Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated.
You know what I did check up on those Pedialytes when I went to Walmart the other day, and they were like $6.85 for a bottle. I don't know about you, but yeah, they were taxing for them. And I'm the kind of guy, I'll chug a whole bottle of Gatorade in like 20 minutes. So I can't be spending $6.84 on a bottle of Pedialyte. No, sir, not happening.
They're more effective than Gatorade, though. And the reason why they're so expensive is because adults and college kids that's their target segment market now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I've went to a party a time or two and woke up the next day and drank one. Does wonders. Well, all you guys listening out there, thanks for joining us. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Front Porch Tailgate podcast. It's available on any major platform. Make sure you guys are connecting with us on social media, and make sure throughout the show you guys are leaving your comments below. And who knows, if you're heavily engaged in the discussion, we might even bring you in as a guest live today. Byron, what do we got lined up today? We got a few different things. I know you're excited and have something going on for us.
Oh, yeah, baby. Yeah, we're what are we leading off with? What's the first topic?
Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is Patrick Mahomes.
Hold on.
What do you mean, hold on?
Hold on.
Oh man, that is outrageous.
Oh yeah, baby!
I see you brought your garb back out, you must have did a quick switch listening to the Nature Boys intro music. I love it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. If you guys are just listening to the podcast, make sure you tune in live via Facebook every Wednesday night at 9:00 so you can actually see the theatrics.
People must
really like it. The people must really like it. We already have comments coming in. Shelby Vernon just chimed in and said that was super extra, Byron.
I love it. Pete Mahomes. Let's talk about my guy, man.
Yeah, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. This is your guy, so why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, so he signed a contract extension this week for, what is it, $502 million, 10-year deal. He's got $141.4 million guaranteed. over the first 5 years. And, it's the richest contract ever in sports history, in any sport. If he goes throughout the entire contract, it's $500 million, man. Couldn't be more ecstatic for the guy because, to be honest with you, Mike, I found out last week that Bobby Bonilla made more money this year than Patrick Mahomes.
Really?
Yeah, and guaranteed money.
Well, let me tell you this. Patrick Mahomes just got a whole lot of pesos.
Oh, yeah, he did. Well-deserved pesos.
Hey, big-ass suitcase full. And apparently there's language in the contract saying that he pretty much can't do any other physical activity. He said he's got to take a look at it, but he can't play basketball, baseball, can't ride jet skis. It'll be interesting to see what else the guy can't do. They pretty much own him at this point. But yeah. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts when this news broke? What was your reaction?
I was happy for him, man. I was happy. I was first in shock, like, holy smokes, because you don't see contracts like this in football. You don't see 10-year contracts. You hadn't seen a contract like this, I think, since the 90s with Brett Favre. So it's been a long time, like outside of my life looking at contracts. By the time I was looking at contracts, that thing was well underway. I wasn't reviewing it. So huge deal for sports, and I think it's going to, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but I think it kind of set the market for quarterbacks, and I think everyone else is kind of going to fall underneath that. That's going to I think it gives the teams leverage to kind of combat what these other quarterbacks want and guaranteed money.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first saw this deal break, the first thought I had was, well, this deal in no way, shape, or form improves the current bargaining position for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I think taking a look at this deal, it's very obvious that you need to give credit where credit is due. And Patrick Mahomes is in a league of his own as far as quarterbacks are concerned in the National Football League. This is a guy I was very skeptical of last season. I know at times you guys had suggested on the podcast that I was a Patrick Mahomes hater, and I wasn't necessarily a hater. I just wanted to see him win a championship and prove me wrong. Well, sure enough, by February, he had proved me wrong. And so from there, the young man earned my respect. And watching him more closely, every time he takes the field, you're seeing something new and fresh and surprising. And when he went down with injury, last year for a couple games, I realized how tremendous of a leader he was, that he was still cheering his guys along on the sideline, leading the post-game chants, breaking the team down. Willie had his knee wrapped up like a freaking gordita. I mean, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes is every bit worth the pesos.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the face of the NFL at this point. He's a young quarterback, thriving. The media loves him. He's a media darling. He's out of Kansas City. He's got a great story. His father was a professional baseball player, so it's awesome. It's awesome to see. He's kind of he wasn't well known in college. He wasn't one of those guys going for the Heisman Trophy, and then boom, he gets his chance in the NFL, takes off. Boom.
Yep. Now, if we can just get him a haircut, the guy will be A-okay in my book.
No, that's his thing, man. I think you're going to see that all 10 years of it.
What we're going to have to do is schedule an appointment so that way he can get his haircut and you can get your beard trimmed at the same time. You guys can do it together, and then he can autograph your jersey. He can autograph your jersey afterwards.
Take it easy. Take it easy. All right. So yeah, I know you talked about this a little bit, but let's dive a little bit deeper here. So we've got some contracts that are trying to be negotiated with Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson. So you're of the belief, similarly to me, that this this benefits the teams, not the players.
Correct.
Now, I read an article earlier this week, and they talked about how these two guys, both Deshaun and Dak, are looking for shorter term deals. So they're looking anywhere from, a 3 to 4 year contract extension so that they can continue to negotiate as the salary cap increases.
Right.
So looking at this deal from Patrick Mahomes, I think one of the most beneficial things to him is that he's got a few outs within this contract. And I think he will ultimately operate that as long as he keeps performing at the level that he's performing and the cap continues to increase. I think he's going to opt out of the contract and renegotiate the deal. I say opt out, but really it's a renegotiation of the deal towards 2025 to get himself even more money. Because looking at it today, now, I know people see that $500 million, but that's not the guaranteed money. The guaranteed money is a little bit more than what Jared Goff is going to receive.
Right. Well, the deal itself is going to guarantee every year that he plays, obviously. But one thing I saw that was interesting, and this brings up the reason why I tend to disagree with you. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to opt out of this contract because according to a report from CBS, this contract is actually guided by a mechanism that's going to ensure the quarterback's annual salary never drops below a certain cap threshold. So in other words, his contract will always allow him to be above a certain percentage of the NFL salary cap when it adjusts. So he's essentially locked in with a contract that has the opportunity to adjust for inflation in years to come. And really, I can't think of a time when we've seen a contract like this.
So the reason why I'm of the belief is because I believe in 2026, his contract, or in 2025, it locks in his 2026 contract, and his salary goes up to like $45 million, and his cap hit is like $45 million. So I think the teams and he himself are going to want to renegotiate that, so the cap hit isn't as large on the team, and he's able to get the skill players around him to continue to thrive.
Which is understandable, but at the same time, quarterback salaries in the past 10 years have almost tripled. Back 10 years ago, Peyton Manning, averaged, I believe, $14 million a year and was the highest paid player in the NFL. And so we've seen that growth. So I think by the time Patrick Mahomes gets to that point in 2025 or 2026, like you suggested, I think the salary cap will be so inflated because of the rate that the league and revenues are growing. There's new sports gambling deals that are being brokered in every state. It's going to be interesting to see how the NFL is impacted by that. That I think that over the course of time, like a lot of people are already saying, what you have is a team-friendly deal that gives Patrick Mahomes long-term security and the Kansas City Chiefs the opportunity to know where they're going to be as far as building teams and acquiring other players for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell, Mike. We will see. I think we'll end up on the opposite end. Maybe we'll put a steak dinner on it at some point in time once they open these restaurants back up.
I'm still waiting on my steak dinner.
Hey, blame COVID, not me. And your schedule. Hey, man,
we don't even have to go get a steak dinner. You can get a nice piece of meat from the butcher and grill it up for me. I know you're pretty good at that.
Drink a couple. No. Well, maybe we'll do that so that we can plan for this year's going into everything. The slate's clear, but you've got to go to the Brazilian steakhouse, Mike. Got to.
Well, if I can wear my sweatpants. Rick Clark Jr. just chimed in, and he brought up a good point. He said, wait until Lamar gets his deal. Now, let's say Lamar goes out and puts up another MVP-like season and the Ravens make a run in the playoffs. How do you see his deal ending up compared to Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, he's going to have to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. He's going to have to win a Super Bowl to get a contract that surpasses Pat Mahomes. The Ravens, they're known to negotiate down, man. I mean, I know that they paid Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco still wasn't the highest paid quarterback at the time that he signed his deal. And that was after he had won a Super Bowl. So I think, I think they're going to play a little bit of hardball. I can't see his deal surpassing Patrick Mahomes, especially with the beating that he takes. They might give him
not at all,
especially with the short-term money.
No, I completely agree with you. I think Lamar's deal will be interesting to say the least, but it's not going to be anywhere on Patrick Mahomes' level. Nobody's is until we find someone that really eclipses Patrick Mahomes. His deal is it's worth about $7 million more annually, maybe even more compared to Russell Wilson, who currently averages the most out of any quarterback. Let's switch up gears here. Let's talk about what's going on with the Washington Redskins. Them and their owner Dan Snyder basically have come under fire in the past few weeks for their insensitive name. Towards Native Americans. And there's other teams that have been criticized in the past as well, like the Atlanta Braves, the Cleveland Indians, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Major sponsors like FedEx and Nike pulled their support of the Washington Redskins franchise if Snyder's not going to change the name for the team. Well, now he's looking at changing team names. The minority owners are unhappy. They're trying to sell off their stakes for the team. Byron, what do you make of all this?
Well, I know you said they recently have come under fire, but the Washington Redskins, people have been asking them to change that name for years because Redskin is a slur.
The spark's been reignited, I guess you would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's hit the mainstream media and everyone's taking off with it. But I mean, as far as it being reconsidered now, because Snyder came out a few years ago and said he would never change the name. So I think just knowing that, money talks, baby. Money talks. They need to change that name. I'm okay with the Braves. I'm okay with the Indians. I'm okay with the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks were a tribe, Those aren't racial slurs. Like that, a Redskin is a racial slur. And so they need to change that name, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. The Redskins, it's a demeaning name, right? The Cleveland Indians, it's not demeaning. The Braves, to me, that's not demeaning. The Blackhawks, it's not demeaning. But when you think of the Redskins, you're thinking of, a cowboy or someone out in the desert, in a battle or riding on a horse saying this about a Native American. And he's not saying it in a way where he's being friendly. He's saying it in a way where he's demeaning his opponent or his foe. And really, in today's world, there's really no place for this at all. And I'm happy to see, honestly, that Dan Snyder is finally being pushed to make the change, because they've been asking him, like you said, for years. And he's, stood his ground, dug his feet in, and refused to change the name. While now all these major sponsors are using financial leverage to force Dan Snyder to change the name, which I think is going to be a good thing in the end.
Have you heard what the leader in the house is for the new name?
I've heard the Washington Red Tails was one of the favorites.
Go ahead.
I've heard it was one of the favorites when this initially took off, as far as the name change a few days ago. And I'm going to be completely honest. I like it because it's a tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American, flight team or crew, to serve in our military.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely fantastic. What have you heard?
Yeah, so I heard from a beat writer for them. He's got pretty close ties. He's saying that the leader right now is the Washington Warriors. So that's what they're saying. They're almost dead set on taking the Warriors.
I've heard that too, because the team wouldn't have to change all the nostalgia and all the imagery and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I really like it, though.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what ends up playing out, Mike. But I just hope it changes from the Redskins.
Yeah, definitely. So you got the minority owners that are unhappy about some of the things that Snyder's been doing. Why do you think it is that these guys are trying to sell their minority stake? Are they just tired of dealing with Dan Snyder, or are they not in favor of the name change?
To be honest, I think they're probably just looking to get out with everything that's going on. You know, they're probably tired of dealing with Snyder and him just being the way that he is. And they're probably going to not make as much money as they have in years prior, based on everything that's going on with COVID. So they're probably like, you know what? This is a great opportunity for us to get out. Let us sell.
Mm-hmm. You notice the Chiefs aren't changing their names either.
I'm happy with the Chiefs, baby. That's not a slur.
Let's switch it up again here. Let's move on to some UFC. Jorge Masvidal replaced Gilbert Burns on 6 days' notice. Gilbert Burns came down with the coronavirus, and he was to face Kamaru Usman in the headline fight for the welterweight title at UFC 251 for the inaugural Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. Mm-hmm. And so Gilbert got the COVID. He's pulled out of the match, and now the fan favorite, Jorge Masvidal, has been put in place to fight Kamaru Usman, and everybody's really excited because this is the fight that fans initially wanted to see. And when this UFC 251 Fight Island, this all came about when coronavirus hit and they were going to have to cancel the Tony Ferguson Khabib match. Dana White started looking for ways to really make that match happen, and he got involved with Abu Dhabi. They had some land offer, and I don't know if you've seen the imagery on TV, but it looks like a Cedar Point style, like an amusement park over there. It looks fantastic. I really would like to go. So if anybody wants to start a GoFundMe and buy me a ticket, I'd be more than happy to ride on out and take you with me.
Mike, fans cannot attend.
Oh, the media can, though. We're going to have to get a press pass.
No,
we'll make it work.
No media.
Oh, yeah, they can get in. They have to be in the bubble, though.
You're a little late for the bubble, aren't you?
Pop that bubble. Anyways, it's going to be an interesting fight. Byron, what are your thoughts about Jorge Masvidal? I know we watched the fight earlier this year together, or last summer.
Last fall.
Yeah. It's been a long
I like
time.
Masvidal, man. He's a shit talker and he backs it up, man. If people come in talking that, like somebody was talking trash to him and he unloaded, I think the fight that we watched, he knocked the guy out in like 10 seconds. And then he got on the mic and he let him know what was up. So I like Masvidal, man. He's going to talk and he's going to back it up. He's taking his hits, but, Usman's the champ. So Masvidal's going to have to bring it to get it.
Here's the thing, right? Jorge Masvidal really packs a punch. He's a powerful guy. We've seen quick knockouts. We've seen him beat the brakes off of Nate Diaz. And a lot of people, though, are suggesting that Kamaru Usman's ground game and grappling is going to be something that Masvidal's not ready for. So we have guys like Rick Clark Jr., predicting Usman's going to win in round 2. Another important note that one of our listeners just dropped on us, Tyler Comstock, said that Jorge Masvidal was actually 20 pounds overweight when he got the call to join the fight, which is pretty crazy. Normally, when you're that far over the weight, they don't allow you to fight for the title.
That's key information. Shout out to Tyler Comstock. I might have to bet on this game, man. I might have to bet on this fight.
Well, here's some more interesting things to know. Right now, right now, Jorge Masvidal is actually the underdog in the fight, right?
Yeah.
Usman's the favorite. I think it's like at 320 or something like that, the spread. And the one thing that's interesting is Masvidal's trainer and one of his ring guys both got COVID. So they're not going to be there at the fight.
Man,
so this guy's
better and better.
This guy's essentially going in 20 pounds overweight, fresh off the couch. And he's going to be going without his trainer and without his ring guy.
Man, I tell you what, this is
I don't know if he's
sounding better and better, Mike. This is looking like a layup for Usman. A layup for Usman, baby.
Shout out to Justin Toddy. He just commented and said Byron Mahomes ?
Let's do it. I might go in the front yard, start working. They signing contracts like that, man.
Yeah, Toddy said that 20 pounds isn't nothing. He's going to lose that in the sauna at the Y when the gyms open up.
We'll see.
Hey, well,
no trainer though.
I don't know what he's going to do. So you have
your thoughts on this fight, Mike?
I'm going to go with the hot hand. And when I think of the hot hand, I think about the guy with the heavy hand. And the guy with the heavy hand is Jorge Masvidal. We've seen knockouts. I believe he's got 18 professional knockouts and 36 victories. You know, this guy is nothing to be taken lightly. At the same time, he's a guy who started off prize fighting in the streets back in Miami during the days when, what was his name? That fighter. You know who I'm talking about? Kimbo Slice. They were like in the same underground circuit. So Kimbo wasn't ready for the big time, but Jorge Masvidal, I'll put my money on this guy every single time. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I think he's definitely going to have to deal with Usman's ground game, but I think it's going to ultimately go about 4 rounds, and I think he's going to knock Usman out once they're tired. Because this guy can pack a real punch, my man.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just checking these lines on mybookie.ag, man. I might have to put some money on Usman, man. Do you want to make this interesting, Mike?
What's the line?
Usman is minus 255. Masvidal's plus 185. So do you
you're going to put
the money lines?
So I understand the money lines.
Okay. All right.
So basically, what are we betting here? Because are we betting currency or are we betting steak dinners? What's your
you want to put a dinner on it? We could put a dinner on it. It don't matter to me.
Does anyone out there listening have an official record sheet of all these dinners we've bet over the past year?
We'll have to go back and check the tape.
Justin Toddy says we need to bet a steak dinner.
Absolutely. You in, Mike?
Well, you want to take me to the Brazilian steakhouse. I want to take you to Uncle Nick's. You ever been to Uncle Nick's?
No, I haven't, but you won't catch me in a restaurant until 2021. So we can plan on that, Mike.
Rick Clark said I owe 7 dinners. That is completely inaccurate.
All right, so let's get back.
I won all the betting. I won the betting contest this season, Rick. Byron owes me a dinner at, where's it at? Texas de Brazil or something like that?
I mean, there's a number of places that we can go. Texas de Brazil is one. Fogo de Chao is another. So we've got options. Fogo's closest.
Well, I have been enhancing my wardrobe lately, so the good news for you is there won't be any conflicts with my attire once we walk in. I won't embarrass you.
Yeah, you're not wearing steaks or sweats to a Brazilian steakhouse. I'm sorry.
Sweats and sandals, baby.
Oh, man. All right, so what's next here, Mike? What do we got?
Well, the next topic is one that's turned into a very controversial subject over the past few days. Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson is under fire for using anti-Semitic language in some social media posts the other day. What were your initial reactions, Byron, when you heard the news, and what were your thoughts?
What a fool. What an idiot. Like who told him that it was a great idea to quote Hitler? Like of anyone, like is he just ignorant to who Hitler is? Has he never heard of Hitler? I understand a lot of people are sharing things that they're seeing on the internet, but you being a celebrity and having thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, if not millions, like you got to check stuff out. You just can't be going, oh, yep, I like it, I'll share it. Nah, bro. That's going to cost you your job. I'm surprised they haven't cut him yet. Like,
here's the thing. When the dust settles, they weren't even comments by Hitler. They were actually comments derived from a book by Farrakhan.
Correct.
Louis Farrakhan. But he was referencing an old passage from some Nazi propaganda, basically, during the book. And when all else failed, Deshaun Jackson, I'm not sure why, but at a time when our nation is so sensitive, why would you think posting that on social media would be acceptable at all in today's society? Like, This is a classic case of a football player trying to be smart. Listen, bro, you went to college, you majored in football. You didn't major in sociology. You didn't major in world history. Don't be trying to be smart on social media when we've got what we got going on right now. It's completely irresponsible.
No, I agree, man. Like I said, it's just dumb. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you not check on things? Like, if there's one thing that you do, if you're a person that likes to share what other people are posting, you got to check up on it.
Shelby Vernon asked, do you think he's trying to get attention? Let me tell you this,
Shelby. Kind of attention.
This is the wrong kind of attention. And what makes this whole thing worse, the Philadelphia Eagles, who condemned his actions immediately and said there's no place for him in today's society, both their owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and their GM, Howie Roseman, are Jewish, along with their former team president.
Yeah.
Like what was this guy thinking?
I will say he issued 2 apologies within 24 hours because he quickly realized what he had done. 2 apologies in 24 hours. But, I mean, the damage was done with the initial release. Like, you got to do your due diligence. You know, we're always talking about guys doing what they need to do, doing their due diligence up front before they do things. And this is just another prime example of people not doing that. You got to act responsibly, man. To whom much is given, much is required, man.
Right. Now there's talk. The Eagles are still trying to figure out what type of punishment they're going to invoke, and they've stated they're definitely going to take some type of action. Do you see this as a situation where basically the Philadelphia Eagles forgive Deshaun Jackson like they did with Riley Cooper a few years ago? Or do you think they make a statement because of what's going on in today's society? And do you think ultimately Deshaun Jackson ends up being cut?
I could see it going either way, Mike. I'm taking this and being like, hey, Deshaun, because he's such a big playmaker for him, I could see them being like, hey, Deshaun, we're going to take you and you're going to work. You're going to be suspended 2 games or 4 games. And we're going to have you go work with this Jewish community over here and learn and do things of that sort. Or I could see them saying, you know what, the damage is done. We're just going to cut ties because I think he's 33, 34. He's in his second win. He's still a burner though.
Yeah, he can absolutely fly on a football field, but let me tell you, he's pretty slow when it comes to social media and his decision making.
Well, he's pretty fast. He's pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty fast at hitting the delete button. Now, Deshaun Jackson doesn't have the best history with the Philadelphia Eagles. The team ran him out of town before, and at the time they suggested it was because he had affiliations to gang members, and they pushed him out of town. You know, he went a few places. They traded him actually within the division to get him out of there. Yeah. They since brought him back. You know, what is the future really going to hold? What do you predict is going to happen, Byron?
Well, I mean, you got to put everything into perspective too, because that was a time when the Eagles had Chip Kelly, and we all know how that thing ended up. But I mean, ultimately, I think they'll probably keep him because of the fact that they need a playmaker like Deshaun, and if you can make plays on the field, the teams will excuse things.
Definitely. Well, it remains to be seen what exactly is going to happen with Deshaun. Now, Steven Jackson, a very outspoken social activist for the Black Lives Matter movement, who's been in the forefront in the wake of George Floyd's death, he came out and instantly went on the defensive on behalf of Deshaun Jackson, and he's since done so twice. He actually doubled down earlier today. Did you get a chance to see that, Byron?
Yeah, I saw that he came out, and Steven Jackson Stack, he's going to say what he wants to say. Like you said, he's been on the forefront of this. He had a personal relationship with George Floyd, and he's been pushing for equality. He came out a couple weeks ago and told the NBA players not to go back and start. Don't go in the bubble. You're taking the attention away from where it needs to be. We're in this fight for justice and for equality, and he needed all the support that he can get, and the players felt what better than to utilize the platform that we have. And so that's why they're trying to get back to the bubble. We'll see if that happens. But, I mean, to me, that's Stack, man. That's Steven Jackson. He's going to go out and say what's on his mind.
No, and I completely understand that, but when you break it down to the basics, whether or not Deshaun Jackson's actions were intentional or meant to hurt anybody, which he's apologized numerous times and clarified that they're not, how can you logically defend something like this?
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's interesting because his whole thing through all this has been love for all that have love for all. So that's what Steven Jackson has been pushing the entire time. So I guess his stance on this is that those people did not have love for all. And so he's stating that, he's not with that because they didn't have love for all. So he's not with them. He wants people that want equality.
I guess for me, it raises a lot of questions because Steven Jackson's someone I admire very much. I listen to his podcast, All the Smoke all the time. Yeah. He's someone who always played hard during his career, and he's someone who definitely keeps it real. You're going to get a straight shooter with him. For me, it brings up the question of whether or not is Steven Jackson for pro equality amongst everyone, or is he pro-African-American, with this whole movement? That's the question I have now stemming from all this. Because his comments today, the other day, basically went on the defensive saying, if a white person were to do this, would you have the same reaction, And he started bringing up Riley Cooper and the things that happened in the past, which are all valid, good points. But it makes me kind of sit back and wonder what's actually going on here with Steven Jackson. Does he even know? Or was he irrational? Because he's since deleted his video on his social media page as well.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. You said he's come down, he's doubled down. But I think, like I said, his whole thing has been love for all that have love for all. So he wants everyone to be treated equally. He's really driving this as a black man for black lives at this point.
I'll go out and say this, right? So we're all human beings, and none of us are perfect. And at times, we've been guilty of making the wrong decision or making the insensitive decision, whatever that decision may be, And a lot of times, many of us realize what we've done when we end up hurting somebody else. and we ask for that forgiveness. And Deshaun Jackson, with 2 apologies, I believe that he's realized what he's done. And I believe he should be forgiven by both society and the Philadelphia Eagles. Because at the end of the day, like I said, nobody's perfect. We're all human. And this idea of equality for all, in my opinion, stems from a belief where we're all God's children. And in that, very case, we're taught as believers to forgive. And I think, obviously, the leadership on the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie, are both men of faith. And I think it would be very powerful in the end if they actually showed him that forgiveness instead of cutting ties with him.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll ultimately see, because I feel like if they were going to cut him, they would have done it by now. I think they're just trying to figure out what they will do.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, let's switch gears here. Let's blow through a couple quick NFL topics. The Raiders they've reportedly offered a contract to Jadaveon Clowney. It's substandard compared to the other offers he's gotten. John Gruden really wants to bring this guy in, but both Mike Mayock and the owner, Mark Davis, don't want to really pony up for Jadaveon Clowney. Byron, what are your thoughts on this situation, and why at this point does Jadaveon Clowney still not have a job?
I mean, he's been offered a lot of money. It's just not what he wants to get paid. So I think that's the thing. He thinks he's at this certain level of value, and teams have him here. So he wants to be paid here, and they're here. So, I mean, there's 2 different levels to this, and I just think they'll have to figure it out at some point.
Now, he's been offered a pretty substantial contract by the Cleveland Browns, and the man turned it down. So he got his price, or very close to it, but he didn't want to go play in Cleveland. So for me, really, it's like, okay, Jadaveon Clowney, I guess, lives in this false reality where he's a top-tier pass rusher, because we all know from watching him on Sundays for the past 5 or 6 years that he's not. That oftentimes he disappears when it comes to the pass rush aspect of the game. He's very good in taking on double teams. He's very good in run coverage. But when it comes to the quarterback, he doesn't get there. And this is a guy who really the Seahawks traded for him, envisioned him being a part of their franchise moving forward, playing with Pete Carroll on that defense. Obviously, things didn't seem to be working out, at least at the price Jadaveon Clowney wanted. So now here we are. And I guess my question to you is, will we ever see Jadaveon Clowney hit that elite pass rusher level?
I don't think so. I think we've seen him I think we've kind of seen what we're going to see from Jadaveon. I think he's a guy that will help impact others, right? We saw everyone was mesmerized by what he did in college and thought he was just going to be a monster. I think he's the all-time leader for sacks in a single season for South Carolina. But at the NFL level, he's just been a guy that I think he's led the league multiple times in QB knockdowns. So he's close and he puts pressure on QBs, but he just doesn't pile up the sack numbers. And like you said, he's good in the run. So he's not going to get Von Miller type money, but that's what he wants. So he's going to have to figure it out on his own and say, you know what, I'm going to have to take this contract, maybe take, $3, $4, $5 million less to go out on the field and maybe show someone that, hey, I am worth that additional couple of dollars. So maybe he signs a prove it deal.
Right. Now, let me ask you a serious question here. The Detroit Lions have an estimated $27 to $29 million in cap space. Would you be opposed to them taking a 1-year flyer on Jadaveon Clowney to shore up that defensive line?
Absolutely not. I'd love it. I would love it.
For all of you guys listening out there, let's start the movement. Get a hashtag #OnePride Jadaveon going out there on social media. Let's start the movement. Let's get this going. We need to win the NFC North Division title this year, baby.
Yeah, we're knocking on that door, baby. We're getting there.
So we got another report here. I don't want to spend too much time on this topic. I know it's something you really don't care to talk about at all at this point, but I've been continuing the Antonio Brown watch dating back to last season. Antonio Brown has been working out occasionally with quarterback Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. And now there's reports coming that Russell Wilson's actually pushing for the Seahawks to go out and sign Antonio Brown. Byron, how likely is this to becoming a reality?
To be honest with you, slim. Everyone's hesitant at this point. They don't know what they're going to get with Antonio Brown, and neither do I. But to be honest with you, I hope he gets the job. I'd love to see him back out there because he's an electric player, and I think that's why you're constantly running the updates because you want to see him back out there.
I know what everybody's going to get with Antonio Brown. They're going to get publicity. The question is whether or not it's going to be positive or negative publicity. You know, this guy has been very theatrical in the past. He's had a lot of issues with coaches, teammates, front office executives. He's got off-field issues up the wazoo. He's been arrested and he's been accused of misappropriations with women in the past few years. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on with this guy. He's definitely cooled his jets a little bit in the past 4 or 5 or 6 months. But like you said, the question really remains is once he hits the field or once you actually sign him, does the bad behavior return? Does the NFL suspend him? What happens next in the saga of Antonio Brown?
Yeah, I know I've said that I didn't really want to talk about him, but I will just update you on this. What I've heard is that he's looking at anywhere from 6 to 10 games when he is signed. When he is
really?
6 to 10, yeah.
What's your source? I'd like to take a look at that.
This was a beat writer that I heard on the radio on Sirius XM. Listening to NFL Network.
So 6 to 10 games, if you're the Seattle Seahawks, it's a lot of games to miss, especially in a tough division where you're going to face the San Francisco 49ers twice. You're going to face an improved Arizona Cardinals team twice and a marginal St. Louis Rams team that was just in the Super Bowl a few years ago.
LA.
He's definitely what did I say? St. Louis? Yeah. LA Rams. Sorry. So he's definitely a guy who is a game changer. We saw that in the one game he played with New England last season. And he's definitely capable of forming a formidable duo with DK Metcalf for Seattle down the stretch running into the playoffs. The question really on my mind is he going to be a fit in the locker room? Or is he going to be a guy that shows up and alienates the entire team?
I don't think so. I know in the past they've stated that he hasn't been the greatest teammate, but I can't see him showing that behavior given the humbling situation that he's put himself in.
I just hope he doesn't bring that bag of rubber dicks with him to Seattle if he does get signed, you know.
All right, Mike, what's next, my man? Jeez.
You forgot about that, didn't you?
No, I did not. That's just not. Come on. What's next?
We're in a podcast. All right. So there's a bunch of NBA players on the fence right now about playing in the NBA bubble in Orlando. Some people are worried that if one infected person gets in, that the bubble will actually pop, that it's not going to be able to work. Joel Embiid is skeptical that the players going there won't be following the proper protocols for safety. Bradley Beal's opted out. He's got a surprising shoulder injury. Victor Oladipo's out. Byron, there's guys falling off of teams left and right. Taurean Prince from the Nets, he just opted out. Is this NBA bubble actually going to happen?
You know, as the days pass and as these cases continue to increase, Mike, I find myself with less and less faith in it happening. I did find myself, though, earlier today getting a little bit excited because I did see that the WNBA women reported. However, they're working out of IMG Academy, and they've been posting pictures on social media showing the substandard circumstances that they've been put in. Terrible room.
Extremely disappointing to see, and those living conditions for those WNBA players are horrendous. There's dead mice running through the laundry rooms. I mean, it's disgusting. I don't know if any of you guys out there have seen it, but I feel bad for these women. But let's digress back to the bubble, okay? Yep. So here's the thing. There's a lot of people dropping out, and there's a lot of injuries going around, and there's certain individuals that are dead set on playing, specifically your teams that are favorites, like the Milwaukee Bucks, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers. Why don't we just take those three teams and throw another one in the mix and let them play it out for an NBA championship?
Yeah, I mean, you got to play it out. You can't just say, all right, we're just going to cut to the Final Four and duke it out. I mean, I feel like you got to let everything play out because we still were in the regular season. So you can't just say, all right, you guys get a pass to the conference finals.
Listen, I understand what you're saying, but what other reasons are they bringing the NBA back for other than an entertainment value and for cash considerations? Either way you shake it, you bring the NBA back and you put the teams the fans want to see in there, you're going to make some money. But what you stand to risk is losing a whole lot of money if you get everybody down there to Orlando, you get them all tested up at bubble and all, you know, everything's aligned, you got all this extra help there, and then you don't finish. And that type of loss coming on the heels of all the losses that they occurred in the China fiasco earlier this season could definitely go a long way to setting the league back for a number of years. Because it's going to cost them a lot of money to get this bubble going down there.
$150 million. $150 million. Yeah, but you also got to remember that the majority of these teams will be gone within 20 days. So the bubble will shrink quite quickly because there's 8 regular season games, and then there'll be, I think, 6 teams that leave at that point. And then after the first round of the playoffs, you'll have another half of the teams gone.
It's my hope, really, that they can just see this thing through and we can get to an end of the playoffs, get a champion crowned. I hope and pray that it's not LeBron James, but we'll see.
The LeBron hater. LeBron hater, baby.
Not a big fan of LeBron. I'm currently watching The Last Dance on silent right now.
Oh, yeah?
And he in no way, shape, or form measures up to Michael Jordan.
All right, so what's next, Mike? I know you wanted to talk a little bit of 2020 NBA draft, so let's dive into that.
Was that a topic pivot?
Let's pivot.
Get into the LeBron battle.
All right, let's pivot. Let's pivot.
So yeah, 2020 NBA draft. What a lot of people don't realize is that this is actually going to occur here rather quickly within the next few months, at the same time that the NBA bubble is going on, or right around the finish. Somewhere in there, it's going to be really
2 days
stacked
after.
close. Yeah, 2 days after, very closely together. And so there's a lot of talk out there about who number one picks and who's going to be there. We've got the Ball brother. What's his name? Not Leangelo, not Lonzo. The little Ball. What's his name, Byron? Help me out here. I'm drawing a blank.
Me too. No, not Lonzo. What's his name?
Why are we in LaMelo? Why are we in such
LaMelo.
trouble?
Mellow Ball. Mellow.
So we got LaMelo Ball. We got your guy from Georgia, Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. That's my
We
dude.
got James. We got
your
James
guy.
Wiseman from Memphis, who was ruled ineligible earlier in the year for taking benefits from Penny Hardaway. We got Obi Toppin, the reigning college basketball player of the year from Dayton. And then we got this other fella. How do you say his name? Okungwu?
I don't know. Okungwu.
He's a big man, right?
He's a little big man. He's 6'9", out of USC. He's a freshman. He's a one and done guy, but they said he's got a lot of skill sets, but he doesn't have an outside shot, and he's undersized, being 6'9".
All of our fans were and listeners were trying to help us out. The chat's blown up with LaMelo.
Oh man, yeah, good old Melo, Australia Melo.
So who do you see being the number one overall pick? There's a lot of talk that the Golden State Warriors may potentially get the pick. There's a lot of other teams out there that are pretty terrible. What do you think?
To be honest with you, I think it depends on who ultimately ends up with the number one pick. Because if it is the Warriors, I can't see them drafting Ball or Edwards. I could see them going after a Wiseman or a Obi Toppin, someone that can kind of run the floor and not be a guy that needs the ball all the time, or an Okungwu. Any of those three, I could see the Warriors selecting someone like that. But if it's the Pistons, a team like the Pistons, I could see them taking a guy like LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards, because those are positions of needs for a team like that.
No, definitely. I'd really like to project either Obi Toppin or James Wiseman going with the top pick. If we get lucky and the Detroit Pistons somehow get that number one pick, I think it'd be absolutely fantastic. Obi Toppin, he's a guy who played at Dayton, and he played against a lower level of competition. But, man, this guy, when you watched him play this year, was absolutely fantastic. I think he shot over 60% from the field. And you all right over there?
I just hear you talking about this, man. The Pistons cannot make that move. They need guards. They need guys out on the wings making plays. A point guard.
Let's be completely honest. The Detroit Pistons need talent. Okay, they need talent, and it doesn't matter what position it comes in at. Okay, now if you're an NBA GM, who are you taking? James Wiseman, Obi Toppin, or LaMelo Ball, who shoots 25% from the three-point line?
I'll take Melo or Anthony Edwards.
You tell me.
I'm taking Melo or Anthony Edwards because James Wiseman, he's an old school center. He's not a guy that I want. If you go with Obi Toppin, you already got Blake Griffin. What do you need Obi Toppin for?
Blake Griffin is close to being done. That guy can't stay healthy. You know that.
You got that contract.
You might as well back up the meat wagon through the arena at Little Caesars Arena and get the door open and get the stretcher on the floor for that guy, because he can't stay healthy to save his life. Can't do it.
He was all NBA last year.
So what? He had a fantastic year last year, and they wore him out too. Guy's got a bum knee. So
Right.
So now we're in a position where we gotta go out and get a guy like LaMelo Ball, where we gotta wait around for 4 years just so he can turn into Jason Kidd like his brother. That's not going to change the game. That's not going to change the game. Come on now.
He's a completely different player than his brother. Completely different.
Well, they both can't shoot threes.
He's a good shooter.
He shot 25% from 3-point line in Australia. You tell me he's a good shooter. You tell me he's a good shooter one more time.
Well, when you shoot as many shots as he shoots, you're gonna shoot a poor percentage.
We don't need LeVar at Greektown in Detroit, okay?
I love it. I love it.
Causing trouble at Greektown.
Give him his own wing.
We don't need LaMelo jacking up half-court shots because he thinks he's Steph Curry and taking out the Steve Yzerman banner at Little Caesars Arena.
He'll learn in the NBA. He
better learn quick
in the NBA, man.
Like, better learn quick.
Yeah. The other people can control him, but he'll learn in the NBA. They'll just sit him.
I want Obi Toppin or I want James Wiseman as my top pick if the Pistons are drafting there. They're not gonna. They'll probably draft a guy like Darko. It's going to be terrible. I got no faith in the Pistons at this point. They're the worst drafting team in NBA franchise.
You got very, very little faith in the old Pistons. I'm hopeful they just signed this new GM from out of OKC. I'm hopeful that they can make a change because we can't really get much worse, man.
I like our coach. You like Dwayne Casey?
I like Dwayne. He's a hard worker. I like Dwayne.
I think it'll be fantastic. He can get this young team going, get them to the conference finals a couple years, and then we'll fire him and we'll bring in Nick Nurse after the Raptors are done with them.
Absolutely.
We'll go all the way. So we're getting to our final take here. We're on the subject of basketball. I'm going to let you take this one from here because I know you're just so excited when the news dropped yesterday that the Michigan State Spartans acquired another 5-star commitment, their second one in a week. Last week, they acquired the top high school player overall, Amani Bates, the number one prospect for the class of 2022. This week, they acquired 2021's top-rated shooting guard, Max Christie from Illinois. Tell me how you felt when you heard this.
So I pretty much knew it was going. You know, shout out to my guy, Spencer Dial. We've had him on the podcast. He's a Spartans insider. He's been saying for months now that we were going to land Max Christie. The confidence was there. This was the only school that he took an official visit to, although his time was cut short due to COVID. But he just built a nice rapport with the coaching staff, especially Izzo. When Izzo typically leads the recruiting from A to Z, he typically doesn't lose out. And this was one guy that he was on from the forefront. So I wasn't surprised to see it. I'm happy he's there. I'm elated, especially if Imani reclassifies from 2022 to 2021, and those two are able to play together. I mean, they've got some more. They're not done yet. They've got some more coming, Mike. Not 5 stars, 4 stars.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, college basketball recruiting is very trendy. And when you see these big stars commit early, what you start seeing after that, like you said, is other 4-star prospects start falling in line to support these guys. They like to team up and go out and win or take a shot, I guess, at an NCAA championship. And you got to think, Tom Izzo's a guy who's a Hall of Fame coach. He's been to 8 Final Fours. He's won 1 national championship. And he's legendary. He's widely respected throughout the world of basketball. You know, He's basically the king of East Lansing, but this guy is still not mentioned in the same breath sometimes as guys like Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, John Wooden at UCLA, Bob Knight at Indiana. Do you think that Izzo needs to put this team together and needs to make a run and potentially get another national championship to be considered one of the elite college basketball coaches of all time?
So I think he's considered right now to be one of the elites, but I do think
you don't think you're being biased at all?
No, I mean he's a Hall of Famer and he's still coaching, so I think he's still considered an elite coach. But I also think he needs at least one more national championship, maybe two at this point.
I think just getting one more will really cement his legacy, like supplant it, like he's one of the greatest of all time. Because the Final Four appearances is just undeniable, right?
Oh, yeah.
8 times you've been in the dance in the final weekend. I think winning one more time will really establish him up there with those guys.
I agree. I mean, I thought he was going to get it a couple years ago, and they got knocked out early. They got knocked out in the first round of Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah. Then they lost in the Final Four back in 2018, right? 2018.
No, last year, 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
2019.
They lost.
Then this year we've had the off year because of COVID this year.
Yep.
He's 65 years old. How much longer do you see him coaching?
I think Tom's got he's a lifetime coach, kind of like Mike Krzyzewski. I think he's got about 5 years in him. I think he's got probably about 5 years, and he's going to call it. But I've also heard that he's going to retire when his son graduates. So his son is going into his sophomore year, and he's going to retire when Steven's done. So he could only have 3 years left. So this may be his final shot bringing in these guys.
Now, this is a testament to tell you how widely respected Tom Izzo is. Corey Smith is a diehard University of Michigan fan, and he just commented and said, Izzo will always be all-time.
Yeah.
That's a lot to say coming from Corey.
I told you it's not biased, man. I had to respect. He had to bow down to him. He's been cracking their ass for years.
Oh, I respect the hell out of Tom Izzo. I just don't know if he's truly elite. When I think of elite, I think of 3 or 4 guys. And when I think of the best college basketball coaches of all time, like I mentioned, John Wooden, Coach K, Bob Knight. There's guys out there like Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams, and Jim Calhoun that have all been to and won the dance more times. So I think he really needs to win another championship to separate himself from some of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he needs another title, Mike. So I'm not you're not going to get me arguing with you about that.
Adolph Rupp at Kentucky, he's another one. There's a lot of guys out there.
Not a fan of Adolph Rupp.
Yeah, not many people are because he was a racist.
Yeah. So,
anyways, that's pretty much all we got for on the show today. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the podcast. It's available on any major platform. Connect with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video footage on YouTube. Thank you guys for all your comments and chatting with us. I'm still waiting for one of you guys eventually to tell us you want to actually appear on the show. We'll bring you in live. So in the coming weeks, if you can muster up the courage, let us know. And then other than that, it's been great doing the show with you today, Byron. What do you have to say to our listeners out there?
You know, as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. If you've got a take and you want to get on to Mike's point, let us know. We'll pull you into the live podcast. When you see information on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Tag a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you don't like it, somebody else will. As always, stay safe, mask up. Love you guys. Be blessed.
Byron, thanks for wearing your Patrick Mahomes jersey today.
That's my guy.
You guys have been listening to the Front Porch Tailgate. Have a great weekend.